Hello class, my name is Tyler, and this is my persuasive speech. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. The world in arms is not spending money alone, it's spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hope of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick house school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete pavement. We pay for a single fighter with a million bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This is not a way of life at all. It is, in any true sense, under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. So although that was a great speech, it was a great speech by President Eisenhower in 1956, his goal of persuading the US to move towards a state of prolonged peace with other countries and moving towards world peace is completely unrealistic. With the rising threat of attack from countries like China, Russia, and North Korea, it is prudent that we continue to remain the highest level of military power on the globe. So today I will be talking about our current state as a military, and I will also talk about how we can move from that current state to a desired future state. So first, I'm going to talk about a quote that I found from an article that was written by Justin Johnson, who was the former senior policy analyst for the defense budget. And he wrote that Americans have every reason to be concerned about the state of the US military. He said the most recent index of US military strength assessed the global threat level as elevated, and America's ability to defend itself and its interests as only marginal. So he then goes on in the rest of the article to talk about how the amount that the US spends on its military budget is warranted because of the host of interests around the world that we look to protect. So another quote that I found from an article that was written by Patrick Collins, who served as an intelligence officer from 2007 to 2017. And he said that if America cut military spending without changing its goals, it is likely to end up with a force that is overextended and and vulnerable to surprise and defeat. And when he says this, he basically means that if we were to cut the military budget, then we would be too spread out to be a legitimate military power. And it also means that we would be more vulnerable to conflicts with other countries and the resulting casualties that would come from those conflicts. So together, these 2 quotes go on to say that the threat that other countries could attack us is much more realistic than we have been led on to believe. So that all might seem like a lot, and it might seem a little overwhelming or scary, but there is a solution to this problem. And 2 ways that we could solve this problem are by passing bills that are looking to help the US rather than hurt it, and also by making cuts in other places rather than the defense budget. So one bill that I found that I thought would help the Air Force actually a lot was for updating the bombers that they use. And currently the Air Force has been using bombers that they bought in the 1950s. And they are still using those bombers to this day. So just on that fact alone, it shows that the Air Force is in dire need of an update. So this bill goes on to talk about how it would transfer $20 million to procuring a new line of B-21 bombers. And when you look at how the defense budget normally spends around $700 billion, that $20 million that would be spent on those bombers is only a fraction of the total cost. And when it comes to making cuts, people always want to jump on the train of we should cut the defense budget because we spend more than any other country in the world on our defense budget. But when you look at what makes up the defense budget, or what makes up the total budget, the defense budget only makes up about 1/6 of it. And when you look at what makes up the total defense budget, the difference in reported spending is um, wildly misleading. So instead of looking to cut the defense budget, we should look more to cut from other parts of our budget that aren't using their resources or their funding as efficiently. So following these solutions to these problems, the US would look completely different. We would once again be the highest power in the world when it comes to our military, and we would once again be respected by other countries for our military might and our global responsiveness. So, also following these solutions, the population of the US would no longer have to worry about the threat of attack from other countries such as China, Russia, or North Korea, but rather we could look to focus more on the internal problems that we face, such as tackling the enormous debt that we live with, or working to fix the environment for our children, or even looking to solve the problems of our economy currently. To conclude my speech, I have a quote from Leon Panett that states, if we were to cut the defense budget by $500 billion, it would affect almost every part of the defense budget. We cannot let the politicians in this country make these major decisions alone. We have a responsibility to advocate for our health and wellness as a country, or well-being as a nation. And this includes properly funding our military so that they are able to protect us on our own soil and be a prominent or legitimate force around the globe. So make sure you go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. Vote to make a difference and continue to keep America great. So my name was Tyler, and that was my persuasive speech. Thank you.